dear viewers, and welcome to RTD's English News Edition. Here are our major stories. The launch of the Djiboutian Diaspora Support Project through the development of a national strategy in mapping. In the United States, the FBI investigating explosive devices into Obama, Clinton, and CNN. Thank you for joining us in our newsroom. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, sent today a message of congratulations to the newly elected President of the Democratic and Federal Republic of Ethiopia, Mrs. Sahle-Work Zewde. In his message, the President of the Republic described the election of Mrs. Sahle-Work Zewde to the Ethiopian Supreme Judiciary as a happy coronation to a full and exceptional career in the world of diplomacy. Your perfect knowledge of the issues on the agenda in your country and your unparalleled ability to make compromises will be invaluable to you in fulfilling many of your new missions, President Guelleh wrote. There is also no doubt that with your profile of multilingual leader open to many cultures and civilizations, your country will find ways to expand its network, source of greater influence for the sister nation of Ethiopia. Also noted the head of the Djiboutian state. His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh concluded his message by describing the election of Mrs. Sahle-Work Zewde as a new dynamic in the direction of the accentuation of a process largely started of economic and social integration between our two countries and our two peoples. The Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed received this morning in an audience a female writer in Afar language from Ethiopia. This is Fatuma Bito Mohammed, who is staying in Djibouti, Professor of Language at Samara University in Ethiopia. Mrs. Fatuma Bito has already published 2 books. Yesterday evening, she was at the headquarters of the Union for the Development of Culture for a dedicatory evening of her second book. The Prime Minister welcomed and commended the writer for her initiative and encouraged her to preserve in writing books in the Afar language. He clarified that a female writer is a strong symbol. The writer thanked the Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed for his support. On the sidelines of the Pan-African Parliament meeting in Kigali, National Assembly Speaker Mohamed Ali Ahmed visited the Rwandan Genocide Memorial, where thousands of citizens were slaughtered. The President of the National Assembly and the members of this delegation went to this museum, accompanied by the President of the Chamber of Deputies of Rwanda, Mrs. Mukapeleza Donati. The President of the National Assembly first observed a minute of silence in front of one of the 14 mass graves of the memorial, where the bodies of 250,000 victims are buried and wreaths of flowers laid. The Genocide Memorial traces the history of Rwanda from the time of Belgian colonization to the genocide of Tutsis, and then came to the power of the current President Paul Kagame. By signing the memorial guest book, National Assembly Speaker Mohamed Ali Ahmed said he was very upset by the discovery of the violence perpetrated by the helpless and the stress he felt. He made a prayer to victims and survivors. It should be noted that the President of the National Assembly took advantage of this visit in his meetings with his African counterparts to meet the former parliamentarian Mr. Ali Soubenateye in order to assume the post of Secretary General of the Union African of Parliaments. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in collaboration with the International Organization for Migration, organized a launching ceremony of the project engaging the Djiboutian diaspora through the development of a national strategy in mapping. The general objective of this initiative is to contribute to Djibouti's economic development through the mobilization of its diaspora. Diaspora registration is present in North America, Europe, Asia, and also in the Middle East. This consensus will help to identify and catalog skills and resources, as well as determining their desire to contribute to the development. The foundation that their promoters wanted as a platform for exchanges between members of the diaspora and heads of national institutions has been fruitful through debates that have helped everyone to exchange. This strategy aims to sensitize and encourage the diaspora to launch sustainable development projects in their country of origin, while providing them with the necessary tools to facilitate their contribution. And we must accompany those who want to live by helping them to connect to local ecosystems, to invest, to join a company or an administration. This policy aims on the one hand to strengthen confidence, to consolidate unity and national cohesion, and on the other hand to reinforce the multifaceted contribution of the diaspora to the country's development. By this strategy, the government tends to work to create a dynamic of support for these initiatives and to facilitate exchanges between the diaspora and the institutions present at the meeting, where the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mohamed Ali Yusuf, the Minister of Interior, Hassan Umar Mohamed, and the Minister of Finance, Mr. Yasser Moussa Douale, Secretary of State for Social Affairs, Mona Osman Aden, IOM Regional Representative in IOM, Representative in Djibouti, Lani Versami, President of Surge Global, Mr. Abubakar Mohamed Ali, the World Bank Representative in Djibouti, Atusek, also actors of various institutions of the state involved from near and far. The Minister of Finances, Mr. Yasser Moussa Douale, optimist in his speech, stressed that the diaspora must take part in the economic development of Djibouti in an inclusive win-win deal. As for the Minister,
something called the IDF, where we had $200,000 and we worked with the World Bank, the Global Djiboutian Diaspora, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where we looked at immediate needs to carry out and look at profiling and the development of a national strategy. So much of IOM's work is looking at, we're in the crossroads of migration, so it's looking at the migrant phenomena. But we also felt we needed to take the time and harness the potential of Djiboutians abroad, and looking at the diaspora and seeing how they can contribute to the economy and to the country. And so we identified with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs a need to look at labor mobility and the diaspora, which is also in line with the UN SDGs and migration agenda.
Je suis heureux de me trouver aujourd'hui parmi vous en tant que représentant de Global Djibouti Diaspora à l'occasion du lancement de cet important projet englobant à la fois.
In coming back to the speech of the Minister of Finances, Mr. Yasser Moussa Douale, in his speech he stressed that the diaspora must take part in the economic development of Djibouti in an inclusive win-win deal. As for the Minister of the Interior, Mr. Hassan Umar, has meanwhile said that this strategy is very important because it will better approach and exchange to better aware Djiboutian diaspora. The Secretary of State for Social Affairs in her speech has placed the diaspora at the heart of social development, also to take part in major social projects such as the social safety nets, and to be the agents of the social development. For the Foreign Affairs Minister, Mr. Mohamed Ali Yusuf, in his speech said, "Be aware of the role that our fellow citizens can play abroad in the implementation of the Vision 2035. He said that the government is busy associating all the active forces and where they are with the ambitious program. Continuing with the national news, the Minister of Health received yesterday in his office the Director of the Regional Office of International Organization for Migrants, IOM, Mr. Chef Laboufitis, accompanied by the representative of the Office of the IOM Djibouti, Mrs. Lani Versami. It should be noted that the meeting was attended by several executives and the central directors of the Ministry of Health. Discussions focused on ways and means to strengthen the fruitful partnership between the Health Department and the UN agency, which is supported by numerous joint projects in the Republic of Djibouti. The Ministry of Health took this opportunity to thank the UN Agency for Migrants for the technical and financial support that it provides through the Resilience Program for the benefit of migrants in Djibouti. For his part, the senior IOM officer, Mr. Labovitz, commended the efforts of the Republic of Djibouti in its benevolent and humanistic policy for migrants. During their exchange, the two parties discussed at length the new perspective of collaboration, as well as the questions related to the improvement of the management management of the health of the migrants by pursuing a reinforced strategy for the mobile patrols along the migratory corridor.
Everything in place for the citizens of his country, but he recognizes that with migrants coming through, that we need to look at the migrant situation and inclusively look at migrants in terms of the resources attributed to both the host communities and migrants who are passing through.
The English language comes first in the world and is also the most influential language in the world. Like every French-speaking country, the English language was only a foreign language for decades in Djibouti. But during this last decade, this language attracts a large number of Djiboutians. The exact causes of its appeal will be the ultimate goal for our report. Over the last decade, the English language has had exceptional and unprecedented reputation and the effort provided by the state to make Djibouti an international hub for foreign investors to invest in Djibouti are the integration of the English language by the government, which is demanded by these investors on the labor market. Since the States General of the Education in 1999, the Ministry of National Education and Vocational Training has remarkably strengthened the learning of the English language in schools. This new system requires English language instructions to begin in the fourth year of the secondary school, and other processes are underway to bring back to the third year of elementary school. The inspector in charge of the training of teachers, Mr. Abdul Karim Ahmed Hirsi, follows English language, and according to him, it is thanks to the efforts implemented by the Minister of Education to make English language what it is today. This fruitful initiative does not stop with the government. The Djiboutians have also integrated the learning of the English language. Almost 100 private English schools opened their doors, especially in the capital of the Republic. In the case of Sheikh Moussa neighborhood, a popular district of the municipality of Belbela, there are more than 5 private schools that welcome more than 100 apprentices. During our investigation, we met the manager of the private school in Sheikh Moussa. He pointed out his point of view is shared with them many young people who are currently learning English. This language, which was previously ignored, now seems to be one of the languages that attracts the most among Djiboutians. It is the result of a state initiative to a major economic change based on foreign investments in the constructions of international airport infrastructures. And this information without images, the Kuwaiti embassy in Djibouti today handed over to the person in charge of CRIPEN, the Research Information and Production Center of the National Education, a batch of 2,500 books of reading in Arabic and English. These books cover different fields: literature, science, history, and geography, or modern languages. They are intended for schools. This batch was handed over to the Director General of the CRIPEN, Mr. Saeed Nur Hassan, in the presence of many senior officials of national education, including Director General of the Administration of MENFA, Mr. Salah Alwan, and the First Counselor of the Embassy of Kuwait, Mr. Hadi Asfih. Mr. Salah Alwan thanked Kuwait for this donation, which will strengthen school libraries. For his part, Kuwaiti First Counselor said he was pleased with the cooperation between Djibouti and Kuwait, insisting that the book is an important means of enlightenment in education. Basic training on reproductive health and hygiene was given to some of the leaders of the Yemeni Refugee Settlement Center in Obok, the center called Al-Markazi. The National Union of Djiboutian Women initiated this training in collaboration with the Ministry of Health and the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. It has returned to Dr. Ibrahim Dimbio to provide this training. During these training sessions, Unity representatives sensitized beneficiaries on the harmful consequences of female genital mutilation and gender-based violence. In Tijora, last Monday, the training workshop on the collection, distribution, and control of quality natural milk came to an end. This workshop was facilitated by Dr. Fatima Muhammad Abdul Latif, Director of Institute of Medical Research at CERD, the Center for Studies and Research of Djibouti. The training workshop was financially supported by FAO, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. The Regional Council of Tajora has offered a place to serve as a meeting point in the closing ceremony of the workshop was attended by Deputy Prefect Mr. Habib Jilani, Regional Council Vice President Abdo Omer, and a representative of FAO. The main objective of this project was to conduct a survey and collection of milk to determine whether there are any risks of diseases, including brucellosis or bovine tuberculosis, linked to the consumption of fresh milk from goats, camels, and cows. Islamic Institute celebrates World Teachers Day. The Islamic Institute of Djibouti, affiliated with the Imam Muhammad bin Saud Islamic University, held a ceremony on Tuesday to celebrate World Teachers Day, officially celebrated on October 5 each year. The event took place in the activity hall of the Institute in the presence of the Chargé d'Affaires of the MPC of the two mosques guardian in Djibouti, Mr. Isaac bin Ibrahim al-Raini, and the director of the Institute of Sheikh Atiq bin Suleiman al-Himadi, as well as Director of Private Education in the Ministry of National Education and Vocational Training, Abdullah Muhammad Jama, and faculty members of the Islamic Institute. During this event, organized by the Islamic Institute of Djibouti each year, the high school students wrote poems and letters emphasizing the importance of the teacher's role in improving the educational process, which was reflected positively in this way that relates to the results of the education. Obituary: we have the immense sadness to announce the death of the late Abdullah Burhan last night in Djibouti. The late Abdullah Burhan held the post of Deputy Regional Director in charge of Rural Development in Tajoro region. In his youth, he was a great sportsman and footballer. The deceased leaves behind a widow, 3 children, and grandchildren. The deceased was well known and appreciated throughout the Republic for his leadership, and so his legendary frankness speaking saddened about the death of the late Abdullah Burhan. The Prime Minister addressed his most heartfelt condolences to the family of the deceased. In addition, the Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Muhammad Ahmed Awali, and the Ambassador of Djibouti in Germany, Mr. Adel Muhammad Dileta, extended most heartfelt condolences to his family's friends and loved ones. All pray to the good God to welcome him to his eternal paradise. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And now moving on to the news outside our borders. The Somali National Army has killed 4 Shabab militants, including a commander, and seized weapons during a military operation in the Bakul region in the south-west of the country, officials said. Ugas Hassan Abdi, Southwest State Information Minister in Somalia, said Major Malindiro was killed along with his 3 bodyguards. He added that the military operations will continue in several areas of the southwest state and aim to free the regional territory of Shabab militants. The Shabab militants made no comment of the latest military advances recorded by the army and said instead that its fires are carried out attacks on 2 army bases at Qansahder and Afgoye in the Bay and Lower Shabelle, respectively, in the same southwest state. The southwest state is preparing for the November 17 presidential election despite the security problems and frequent attacks by the militant group. The Shababs killed 22 people and wounded 36 others in Paido, the administrative capital of the southern Somalia, on 13 October in 2 suicide bombings. In the international news, United States of America, FBI investigates explosive packages sent to Obama, Clinton, and CNN. After the emotions that followed the homemade bombings of Donald Trump's retractors politics quickly returned to its rights, American President called on rally, but stressed that responsibility of the media in the deterioration of the current climate, while Democrats are accused by the Republic. Donald Trump said that any act or threat of political violence was an attack on our democracy itself. He is at the same time at a campaign meeting in Wisconsin North and called on the media to cease endless hostilities and constant and often false negative attacks. In a few hours earlier in the day, 6 alerts to the suspect are replaced from New York to Florida by Washington, not to mention an alert in California, climate No casualties were reported, but local and federal police were placed on alert. The mayor and governor of New York have denounced desire to terrorize in the electronic agent began to visit the Federal Service for the Protection of Former Presidents and intercepted 2 packages containing potential explosive devices. Hillary Clinton, who lives in the suburbs of New York, and Barack Obama, who lives in Washington. And that's all for this news. Thank you for joining us on Radio Television of Djibouti, and have a good night.